What is going on, horror fans? Scream Fanatic here. And if you've been following this channel, you know that I've been doing a bit of a Screamathon for like the past month where I'm watching each Scream movie and then following each watch, I am giving my review. I'm doing all of this leading into the seventh installment of Scream. And today's review is going to be my Scream VI review, Scream Roman numerals. So this will be my sixth and I was going to say final, but the seventh one is yet to come, and I'm going to review that one also as well when I'm done watching it. But final for now. So I just got done, watching this movie. So I'll give you my thoughts on Scream. And honestly, Scream VI, sorry. And honestly, I've always had like conflicting feelings of this movie because I feel like it's not a bad movie. It's not the worst Scream movie in the world. But in my opinion, it's definitely not the best. I remember being like very hyped for this movie before it came out. Because the promotions, they were doing a great job. There was the whole hype of this is a new city, New York, new rules, nobody's gonna hear you scream. And the whole tagline leading into this movie was, there's never been a Ghostface like this. And even in the trailers, Ghostface says, I'm something different, but he never actually says that in the movie. And then in the movie, it turns out we have seen a ghost face like this. The motives weren't any different, okay? I felt this movie was just it was too cliche of a Scream movie, too unoriginal, and I feel like it overpromised and underdelivered. And I feel like if this movie, if it didn't oversell in the lead up, then I wouldn't have walked in with high expectations and I could have just enjoyed the movie for what it was, which eventually I did, because I went on to watch this in theaters like 2 more times after the first watch. I've watched it on Blu-ray 1,000 times because I do enjoy the movie. It is fun in its own right, a lot of action, a lot of gore. It's a very entertaining movie, but it's not without its flaws. And my overall issues I have with Scream VI is, for one, the killer motives, okay? And not just the motives, but the killer reveals, which I'm going to get to in a second. We'll actually get to the killer reveals first. That's what disappointed me, because in the trailer, they hyped up Ghostface to be like this badass, never seen before kind of killer. And literally, you see in the trailers, in a bodega, Ghostface is holding a rifle. That made me think, dang, is this like an ex-soldier, Navy guy or something like that? And what's his motive? Oh, as it turns out, it's literally just the lineage of Richie Kirsch. It's Richie Kirsch's family coming to avenge him. Ethan, Quinn, and Wayne. And I'm like, really? These are the killers? These guys throughout the whole movie that I had no fear or respect for? I get it. Usually in Scream, expect the unexpected, but I'm like, why Ethan? Why Quinn? Why Wayne? And then also, why are we milking Richie Kirsch's legacy? Like, Richie, he wasn't a horrible Ghostface, but he wasn't the best. And I feel like you could have just left his story in Scream 5. I feel like that was kind of redundant, didn't need to be, dragged out into this movie. So I thought that was pretty weak. Killer reveals were garbage, motives were garbage, and plus, this felt like a carbon copy of Scream 2. Now, I understand this is a requel, okay, a requel series. Scream 5 was a requel. Scream 6 is the sequel to the requel, and Scream 5 was like Scream 1 adjacent with similar events. So I guess Scream 2, or Scream 6, that's why it was acting like Scream 2. But my issue with that is there's a fine line between sort of replicating the original events, as a requel, the first of a requel series, and then overstaying your welcome. And I felt like by Scream 6, they could have stepped it up and kind of went their own way. But I guess, 6 movies in, when you've made 6 movies, it's easy to run out of ideas. But another thing I didn't like, so Gale Weathers, right? She literally promised in Scream 5, at the end, she was never going to write about the killings again. What does she do? She writes about the events of Scream 5, which probably indirectly caused the events of Scream VI, which is really annoying because they literally just undid Gale's whole redemption arc. It's like, what was that thing? What was all that for to begin with? Like, what was the point? You know, like she deserved to get socked in the mouth for that. Another flaw is no Sidney Prescott, okay? And it's not a Scream movie without Sidney. Even though they kind of made it work, it just felt like the foundation was missing. It felt like this movie was missing a limb. You know, the heart of the franchise wasn't in it. And that's what happens, Spyglass, when you don't pay Neve Campbell her worth. We don't get one of the best characters, right? But at least she's back for 7. Now, of course, I did like the new lead, the new final girls, Sam and Tara. And I mean, one thing I will say I did like about the movie, I did think that the core 4 was well written. I thought they were all lovable characters that were easy to get attached to. And I thought the Carpenter sisters, their storyline, their arc was well done. I kind of liked the evolution of their relationship throughout the movie, where in the beginning, they started with a bit of a conflict where Tara's not dealing with her trauma properly versus Sam is being overprotective. Tara doesn't want to do therapy. Tara doesn't want her sister being overprotective, but Sam is afraid, and Sam doesn't want Tara to become a victim again. That's why she can't let her go. But then I love how throughout the movie, they kind of learn to get along, work together. And then by the end, Tara just kind of admits, yeah, I'm going to need a lot of therapy after this. And their bond becomes a lot stronger after they survive the events of Scream 6. I thought that was pretty well done. And I thought it was interesting how they took a romantic angle with Tara Carpenter and Chad Meeks. But I guess it's not too surprising when you consider in the 5th Scream movie, Chad was kind of accused. I think it was by Amber for having a crush on Tara. Someone's like, we all know you have a crush on Tara. Maybe that was true. And then in this movie, they end up together. The only thing I didn't like about that is I have a bit of a celeb crush on Jenna Ortega, so it made me feel some type of way. But if I put my bias aside, that was a good relationship they established there. And then, of course, Mindy continues to be the new Randy, who basically lays out the rules for the whole Stab franchise and what it takes to survive a horror movie and what makes a suspect. And like her Uncle Randy, of course, Mindy accurately calls out the suspects. She said Quinn, the slutty roommate, perfect suspect, cop dad, perfect cover up. She was on the money with that. And then Ethan, the nerd that nobody suspects because he's a nerd. Again, on the money with that. So I thought that was pretty cool. I liked the core 4. I thought it was kind of interesting, the relationship that Sam had with quote unquote cute boy. His name's Danny, but they call him cute boy throughout the movie. And I know that originally he was supposed to be a ghost face. I'm actually glad they didn't go that route with Danny. I felt he was just better as a supporting character, as a best friend to the core 4, even though they didn't fully trust him because, of course, anybody could be Ghostface. And I thought it was interesting how they sort of changed the rules in this movie a little bit, because the opening kill felt a little bit different. You know, you had the opening kill, which usually includes a woman. Check, that did happen. But what was new is they did the mask reveal way too early. Jason reveals himself after killing Samara Weaving in the dark alley. But then that already tells you, okay, he's definitely not the main ghost face and he's going to get killed later, which he did. So the opening kill had a female victim and then a ghost face victim to another ghost face. That was pretty crazy. And I thought this movie did have some pretty good suspense, like that subway scene where the core 4, they were a little divided across 2 different trains because Mindy and Ethan were on a different train because the crowd sort of blocked them off. But where you had a bunch of people, because this is around Halloween season, right? You have a bunch of people sort of dressed and as different characters, but a bunch of people in Ghostface costumes, and you know Ghostface could be anybody. And you know one of these people are the actual killer. And sadly, Mindy found out, although, you know, thankfully she didn't die. But yeah, as we know, she gets stabbed up by Quinn. And this was like on the way to like the 3rd act shrine final battle, which I'll get to in a moment. But another scene that was pretty suspenseful and well done was the scene where I think it was probably Ethan or Wayne who attacks the core 4 in their apartment. This is like when Quinn faked her death, right? And Danny, he used a ladder to help the Core 4 get across to another building to safety. And that scene, it just had me on the edge of my seat when I was watching it for the first time, because I'm like, dang, are they going to make it? Who's going to die? And unfortunately, Mindy's girlfriend doesn't make it, Annika. That sucked. I felt like that was like the only significant death that happened in this movie, though. I felt like this movie had like way too many survivors, which was ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad they didn't kill Gale in that penthouse scene, but that could have been a death. I felt they should have just killed off Chad. I thought him surviving was ridiculous. I thought that was stupid, but whatever. Chad is a lovable character, but someone important should have been killed off in this movie. This movie should have had stakes, and I felt like it didn't, although maybe you could say in the beginning they did, because how the movie kind of opened up, which is another thing I liked about the movie, where there was a narrative against Sam, where she was seen as the villain of the events of Scream 5. The court of public opinion was on the side of Richie and Amber were innocent, Sam was the crazy one, and it kind of made me wonder, how is Sam going to overcome this? Even her therapist is terrified of her. What is she going to do to reveal the truth? Who's behind these rumors? But of course, as we found out, it was Quinn who did it, and it was the whole Bailey family who was behind it. And then of course, there's the final act, the final battle, where the, Bailey family, they unmask themselves, and their whole plan is to get Sam to put on Billy Loomis's mask so they could kill her and her sister, and then kill off survivors like Mindy and Gale in the hospital, because everyone who is involved with Richie's death has to die, right? But this couldn't have been an any more satisfying, ending. I'm glad that these guys, all of them got killed off. Wayne, Ethan, and Quinn, because I didn't like them. I didn't respect them. And they were just kind of pissing me off towards the end. But I do love how, once again, Sam Carpenter embraces the dark side, embraces sort of her father's dark spirit, and just freaking goes to town on all those villains with her knife. And I love the part where she flips the script on Wayne after his two children are dead, although somehow Ethan came back to life after being stabbed through the mouth. I liked when Sam called up Wayne, put on the Roger L. Jackson voice, was questioning him down, and then Wayne was like, "I'm a cop, huh? Who do you think they're gonna believe?" And I love how Sam reveals herself and says, probably the one who's still alive, and ends up sliming out Wayne Bailey. Serve him right. Thought it was ridiculous how Ethan had one last wind in him, but I'm glad that Kirby finished him off. And I forgot to mention, Kirby was in this movie, which did kind of surprise me, because I thought she died in Scream 4. I mean, I knew Kirby Reed was coming back in this movie because the trailers revealed it. And I did think she was a pretty valuable character to the story. So I actually am glad that they did bring back Kirby. And I like her story arc as well, where she went from being a Ghostface victim to now an FBI agent who's hunting down Ghostface killers. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, the movie concludes. None of the characters we love die or get corrupted. The villains get defeated. And this is basically Scream 2 reincarnated, but like, how many years apart was this? 25 years later or 26 years later? Like I said, not the worst Scream movie in the world. It wasn't the worst, but I definitely didn't think it was the best Scream movie. And what I would rate this movie, I already gave it my rating. I gave it a 6 out of 10 in my Why Scream 5 Worked and Scream 6 Didn't video. You can check that out. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But yeah, that concludes my series of Scream reviews. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And stay tuned for when I get to review Scream 7. Looking forward to that. See you then. Like and subscribe, and peace out.